Candy, page 7. John's been spending a lot of time with Roxy lately, which also means spending a lot of time with Calliope, which is awkward, but fine. But it also means spending a lot of time with Gamzee, which is awkward and not even remotely fine. John, Roxy, and Calliope are taking a stroll through downtown New Prospect. Gamzee's here too, a couple of feet behind John, doing essentially the same thing that the other three are doing, which is walking at a leisurely pace. He's being so weird about it that he can't really call it strolling. It's more like he's holding court while somehow remaining in motion. Ever since he popped out of that fridge smelling like a sweatyfoot, he's been all wise and sage-like. John considers that if he were using these two descriptors out loud, he'd make air quotes while saying them. He'd then say Gamzee's acting almost like a priest, which is a word he would also make air quotes around, due to how insanely full of shit John still believes him to be. Roxy and Calliope, however, apparently do not believe him to be full of shit, for some reason.
Isn't that nice?
Huh?
Gamzee is leading a line of adoring care patients trailing behind him, telling them stupid fake Zen stuff like, "You gotta stop to smell the seed fronds, my dudes." Not to be speciesist or anything, but the sight is kind of worrying because John knows all too well how susceptible care patients are to grassroots populism. He has it on good authority that virtually any schmuck can blunder into a crowd of them, say a few inspirational words, and incite revolutionary fervor amongst the masses. John tries his best to ignore it and walk ahead, but Roxy loops her arm through his and pulls him back. "We're here! Check it!"
Where's here?
Me and Callie's fave cafe! It's a nice place. Big oval windows, flowers on all the tables. It's got a Frenchish aesthetic. John says ish because everything on Earthsea is sort of ish. Alternian-ish. Durse-ish. Japanese-ish. He'd even described the sky as being kind of blue-ish. Sometimes it's more turquoise than anything. Too crisp and bright, like the old Earth sky as seen through a pair of tinted novelty glasses. John doesn't mean to be cynical about it, but he guesses that's just the mood he's in. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Calliope insisted on including an unbelievably smelly clown on an otherwise perfectly pleasant stroll.
That's it? We're going to a coffee shop? I got out of bed for this.
Mayo. Oh, John, you're so funny.
No, seriously, Roxy, I feel like I haven't left my house in years, and with all the stuff that's been going on, like Rose's illness, or the stuff about the political situation, is it really a good idea for us to be having picnics and going out to coffee shops?
Oh, John, don't worry so much about things that you have no control over. Like I said the other day, it's time for us to leave ugly things behind us.
Yeah, for real, John. Can't you just enjoy what a beautiful day it is? I know I'm enjoying it, since I get to spend it with you like I've always been wanting.
You have?
Yeah, duh. She tugs him against her side and rests her head on his shoulder. She's a bit taller than him in her nice shoes, so it's kind of awkward. Feels uncomfortable to him and looks more so for her, but he's enjoying the attention. Sort of. He missed her, the way she used to be, when the two of them were close as kids. She's laying it on a little thick for his benefit right now, and while he can appreciate that, it can be difficult to rekindle a friendship after it's gone cold for a while. John wishes the rekindling period would hurry up and end already so they can just go back to shooting the shit like normal. Roxy drags him into the cafe. Calliope doesn't follow them in, for reasons he can only guess at. He catches a glimpse of her through the window, a little forlorn. Gamzee at her side like a faithful dog. He can't hear what they're saying. Outside, Calliope clasps her hands and directs a wistful expression through the cafe window, foot traffic splitting lazily around her and Gamzee as they stand in the busy street. At high noon, her little body casts almost no shadow on the cobblestone road.
What shaking, sis? You look bummed all the fuck out. How can you be feeling down when we were getting all redeemed and shit up in here?
Oh, it's just... Can't you see what's happening with Roxy and John?
Gamzee stares through the window. Roxy is leaning across the table to dab at the corner of John's mouth with a napkin. John looks very confused because they aren't actually eating anything yet. Gamzee stares at this for a very long time, his mouth lolling open as he contemplates what is transpiring with the closest facsimile to wisdom he can muster. He put one of his huge hands on Calliope's narrow shoulder, all comforting like.
Oh yeah, for sure your girl Roxy is all glows deep in that dude's dank nook.
Yes, and while I can't say I didn't see this coming, it's all happening so fast. I thought for sure I'd have more time with her.
Would a motherfucker like me to?
Gamzee leans in so that his face is level with Calliope. His grin shows every single one of his teeth. Miraculously, his breath smells worse than his body.
Motherfucking do something about it?
No, Gamzee, no please, it's fine. I might be sad, but John has made his choice, and we must all live with the repercussions of that. I'm sure that Roxy will be very happy with him. We're all going to be very, very happy. I truly believe that.
Calliope walks away, looking somewhat less than very, very happy. Gamzee remains standing in front of the cafe, still not entirely convinced that he shouldn't motherfucking do something about it. John notices him there, just outside the window, leering at him and Roxy. His expression is serene, vacant. Calliope is nowhere to be seen.
Hey Roxy,
What's up?
Gamzee. He's staring at us and it's kind of creeping me out.
Ah, yeah, don't worry about that. He gets stuck like that sometimes.
Stuck?
All walked out and shit. Think he's got brain damage from being a being a burnout. It's so sad.
Is it?
Roxy takes a sip of her tea. Her purple lipstick leaves a stain on the fine china. Yeah, John, it's totes sad. He never had a chance with the kind of laugh he had. What a tragic, misunderstood figure. Roxy sighs and spears the cherry atop her cheesecake with the absurdly tiny dessert fork it was served with. She pops it in her mouth with a pouty little lip, staring directly at John with her eyes half lit. He thinks she might be trying to be sexy, but he's a bit distracted by the sight of Gamzee lumbering into the cafe with all the grace of an aubergine Sasquatch sporting an epic erection. He puts both hands on the back of Roxy's chair and looms over her. Without breaking eye contact with John, Roxy scoops a spoonful of cheesecake and feeds it to him.
Hey Roxita.
Hey, Gams, what's shaking?
Callie went all off running off. Ugh.
Aw, hope she's feeling alright.
She's motherfucking fine. She said some noise about because of what John did. We're all gonna be one big happy family of fucking ninjas for motherfucking ever. What?
Gamzee, you're one silly dude. To be honest, pretty psyched to see you going through all this redemption shit. I bet you're gonna make a baller part of our great ensemble if you're given the chance. John attempts to furtively gesture his disapproval with the entire situation toward Roxy by vaguely swiping his neck in a horizontal direction with his fingers, but she doesn't notice. Instead, she puts her fork down, slides her chair out, and springs to her feet with an abundance of this newfound enthusiasm he's been struggling to understand. Yappy! Gonna hit the ladies' room. Back in a jiff, suckers!
Alright.
John and the date's repulsive third wheel watch as she scurries to the back of the establishment. The moment the door to the bathroom closes, Gamzee lumbers into a sitting position across the table from John, without the slightest deviation in his heinously awkward comportment. He puts his forearms on the table in front of him, folds his hands, and gazes into John's eyes with what he has come to identify as Gamzee's signature brand of faux serenity.
My fucking guy. My dude and my ninja alike. My horn dog. My horn to the motherfucking dog. Waiter, help!
John desperately waves to attract some service, in the hopes that it will provide a social buffer for the appalling interaction that is presently taking place. But no carapacians seem to be close enough to heed his request.
I see what's fucking up, my good Verti brother. All's about I can say is game recognized motherfucking game. You got no secrets from this motherfucker, egg boy. A man stays locked in another man's hunger trunk long enough ain't got much left to fucking hide from one another. Actually, that wasn't even my fridge. It was Jane's. I mean, we basically got the same for it. Shut the fuck up. I'm getting real out of motherfucker right now. I've been redeemed, yo. I said my sorries and redeemed the shit out of myself. Didn't you see? Yeah? So it's incumbent on a motherfucker to spread the redemption. You should get your redemption on too, my choices of dudes. My dankest of dogs. See, a motherfucker knows. You got this bitch on the rope, it's time to pull her into your tent. I can smell it on you, brother. You've wasted years letting this premium hoe slip through your fingers. Less fucking conscionable than any crude stunts I pulled in my day, I must tell you. A capital motherfucking crime to be squandering Earth busy like that. Holy shit. But I'm all getting your back here, bro. I can be your wingman in this carnal fucking caper. I can help a little bitch like you romantically redeem his sorry ass. Let a motherfucker help a motherfucker out. Her popcorn skillet's piping hot for you already. You just need a Tyson loyal boy like me to start shoveling in the corn.
Thinking it unwise to break eye contact with this lunatic, John nods very slowly as he listens, while taking a secret snap of his ghoulish face to send to Terezi. Before John submits, he tags the photo with a message.
I absolutely fucking hate this.
Did you hear that Jane had been intending to run for president?
Yes, she in fact asked me to serve a position in her cabinet on the Board of Responsible Troll Reproduction.
Oh dear. What did you tell her?
Well, not in so many words, but I told her to kindly fuck off. Rose arches an eyebrow at her wife, who is tending to the mother grub. Rose herself is sitting cross-legged on an outcropping over the lip of the breeding pit, knitting a series of tiny scarves for the grub clothes that she and Kanaya have come to help hatch.
That bad, huh?
She was already talking about regulating troll reproduction, with great confidence, I might add, as if she had already been elected.
Very presumptuous of her.
Well, I suppose her confidence was not unearned. Who is going to run against her? Karkat? Kanaya laughs to herself, more fond than mocking. Rose turns over another row on her scarf with dexterous ease, switching the knit pattern without missing a stitch. From behind her knitting, she watches Kanaya check the shell thickness on a batch of eggs. Her wife is luminous in the early morning light, her rainbow drinker skin soaking in the pink light and reflecting it back like the inside of a snail's shell.
I don't think Karkat would be such a bad candidate, actually. Depending on certain factors, I mean. I'm assuming that in this theoretical scenario, Dave is handling the economy.
Oh, of course.
Okay. In that situation, it might have all worked out in the end.
Doubtlessly. I have great faith in Karkat and always have. However, I also am not certain that he could step out of his hive without catching on. Swifer, could you not swift the mother grub so vigorously?
Oh, sorry, Mom.
Swifer Eggmop is Kanaya's over-eager but well-meaning jade-bloated assistant. She talks a little like a parody of a 19th, which Rose can only theorize it has to do with Jane's influence on the culture.
Just trying to get her nice and clean. I heard the new prospect hornographer is coming by later to scope out some pics.
Swiffer is at the center of the breeding pit, knee-deep in birthing the skeleton. The grubs is apparently an arduous and grisly task, one that has stained the mother grub's shimmering white exoskeleton rainbow dark with various secretions. Rose takes a moment to feel grateful that her current relationship alignment leaves no chance for her to ever be human pregnant. Not that she has any particular distaste for motherhood. Might be nice to adopt a little troll grub once the whole ball on natural production gets rolling. Swiffer adjusts the rate of her swiffing to a more acceptable level of vigor. She shines up the last of the segment she's working on, then twirls them up over her wrist with a martial flourish that absolutely recalls the fact that she is from a natural-born warrior species. She then gets to work washing the mother grub's horn.
What's this about the hornographer? Since when has the press taken an interest in our activities down here?
Oh, yes, you were busy dying when I set all that up. The mother grub is mature enough this year to process inseminated slurry for the first time in our history. Plus the go-ahead, we can begin breeding trolls the natural way next month. I arranged the newspaper story
When Jane asked you to sit on the board for responsible troll reproduction?
Yes. The first thing I did immediately after screaming into a pillow was to call my acquaintance at the paper. Now that she isn't running it, doesn't seem very important, however. Actually, I'm not terribly interested in politics at all. Without anger motivating me, I began to think about how it's probably very irresponsible for any of us to use our influence in such a way.
I agree. In fact, I just assumed that most of us had arrived at such a conclusion.
Not Jane, apparently.
Or Dave, I'm sorry to say.
There's a third member of their social group who definitely hasn't arrived at the conclusion that his power and influence should be meted out responsibly either. Neither of them speak his name, however. For some reason, it feels like a shadow passing over the sun. A brief spike of pain flickers through Rose's head, a bolt that strikes between her eyes and splinters out. There is color and light behind it, a vision that tears through the material reality in front of her and gives her a brief glimpse into a parallel reality where things are very different. It's gone as soon as she notices it. The image never materializes. She ties off the last row of her scarf and unwinds her knitting needles from the wool, a serene smile tugging at her lips. Since waking up in the hospital, she has stopped worrying altogether about what might be happening in splintered timelines. She has stopped worrying about almost anything at all. A pleasant breeze rustles through her hair, carrying the sweet scent of early spring from the mouth of the chasm. Rose closes her eyes for a moment. Taken just 1 minute at a time, the day can be filled with hundreds of perfect moments. Well, whatever inconvenient party-ruining opinions Dave and Jane might have about the economic future of our planet, it's all in the past. I have a very good feeling about where things are going now.
I see. So are you the seer now?
No, but I can make predictions based on existing evidence. And if I can spend every day like this doing the work that I was born to do with the person I am most fond of in the world by my side, I believe that I can handle anything.
Did you really use dialogue like that to win my heart? Or are we getting complacent and incredibly uncool in our age?
I convinced you to marry me. I don't think that I am obligated to be cool anymore.
Kanaya, you're the coolest chick I know.
What are you doing with your hands?
Oh, just one of these.
Please don't tell me you're attempting to do the Strider thing. That thing he does where he pretends to operate an invisible record player. God.
Who's the cool one now?
Well, it sure isn't you. Ma'am
Ma-
and Ma'am's wife.
Mom and
Thanks
Mom's
close.
wife. Bank's closed, ladies. The first egg is hatching already.
Kanaya twirls on her heel, skin flickering bright as she lifts her skirt and jumps into the breeding pit. Rose sets down her needles and follows, walking along the edge of the pit to the place closest to the eggs. She crouches to watch the miracle of life begin. She's never taken the time to come down here before and see the grubs hatch, probably because she's been too busy diminishing melodramatically on the couch to take an active interest in her wife's life calling. The grub is already chewing through the chitten's eggshell with all its little legs moving sinuously in offbeat concert. Swifer is sniffling. She makes the motion of wiping away a tear, somewhat cartoonishly.
Golly gee oh my, this part always makes me tear up.
Kanaya dips down to help the grub out of the shell. Her skirt trails through a puddle of birthing jelly, but she doesn't seem to care. There's an odd expression lighting up her face, in addition to the literal light emanating from her skin. She tears away the last chunk of the shell. It's mottled and rough, like a rock on the outside, but has a layer beneath like mulched flesh. Kanaya's hands are soaked blue with the bloody yolk when she finally lifts the grub and holds it up to the light. Rose, look! Rose looks. All troll grubs appear kind of samey, but this one has a familiar look about her. Asymmetric horns, one crescent, the other harpoon-like, a mussed mane of hair, and a mischievous glint in her beady little eyes, particularly the one with 7 pupils.
Vriska?
Pretty close. A reasonable genetic approximation. This brood has been of genes from our original group of 12 trolls. Mostly this results in unique individuals, but sometimes very close copies occur, as with the case of ancestral descendancy.
So, Vriska would be this troll's ancestor?
Yes.
Wow.
Rose, I think this is a sign.
A sign of what?
Haven't we been talking about adopting a grub?
Eventually, yes. But a natural-born grub. Don't you think it will be somewhat awkward, us raising a clone of your Sword of X? What happens when Vriska comes back? What do we say to her?
Rose, Vriska is dead, so it doesn't really matter.
Is she dead, though?
Absolutely. There are two things of which I have no doubt. That you and I are going to be happy for the rest of our lives, and that we are never ever going to see Vriska again. Baby Vriska wiggles her 6 talons. Kanaya cradles the little grub against her chest and pokes it in the nose. The grub reacts by blowing a bubble of bright cerulean yolk membrane out from between its lips. To her own surprise, the sight melts Rose's heart in an instant. The emotion that hits her feels like one of her old visions. Suddenly she can see her and Kanaya's future so clearly, like a map rolled out at her feet and stretching far into the horizon. Kanaya is right. Vriska is dead, and despite everything, she died a hero. Vriska was a complicated figure of contrasting extremes. Her heroic actions were matched in scale only by her monstrous one. And since no one had actually witnessed her end, it was impossible to say which side the pendulum swung and judged her death, heroic or just. It would be a fitting memorial for her and Kanaya to raise a version of Vriska who would be given every chance to make a good on her noble characteristic. A true symbolic redemption arc. Something about the thought appeals to Rose's taste for the dramatic flourish. It would be proof that this was all worth it in the end. The destruction of multiple universes, the death of Kanaya's friends, the circuitous rites of suffering experienced by the nearly infinite splintered versions of every being to inhibit paradox space. Rose loves her wife fiercely in this moment, the new mother of her species, framed in the literal halo of life. She can't contain her excitement. She leaps into the pit with Kanaya and runs to embrace her, not caring about the irreversible rainbow-colored stains that she's smearing into her dress.
Oh, Kanaya, you're right. We're going to be so astonishingly happy.